Have you ever had an industry peer who consistently blows your mind? Oh, there's like a person that always, you trust them, they're gonna hit the ball of the park. When it comes to building a brand, Rory Vaden is that friend and that peer of mine. I've never met somebody who can speak so clearly, so effectively, and teach the how of building a brand so well. And I'm not being just a nice friend. I'm not here to pump him up. I've actually paid to spend time with him to consult on my brand messaging, my speaking messaging, and how that relates to my brand, as well as building frameworks for my brand. I am so thankful to have Rory in my life, which is why I am thankful to have had him fly from Nashville to Newport Beach to have him speak at my mastermind. Okay, so here's a little bit of context. My mastermind is for 7-figure founders who are scaling to 8 figures, and we focus on branding and marketing. Rory broke down the essence of what's needed for brand development, and he also broke down focusing on the most important things to build your brand. I couldn't imagine a better guest speaker to join us for a session, and I couldn't be happier that he allowed me to share his incredible conversation on this show. So before we get into it, I want to note that at the end, Rory and I hosted a Q&A session that really expanded the room, and I hope that it expands for you too. So let's dive into that right about now.
I'm Rory Vaden! Woo! Hello, ladies. I don't know that AJ realized that I was going to be in a room full of brilliant, beautiful ladies by myself, but so great to be with you. I'm pretty sure we saw each other at the gym this morning. Were you in the gym? Yeah. So I'm so excited. And, I have to tell you, I love being around all women. I was raised by a single mom, and my mom sold Mary Kay Cosmetics. So I literally grew up in rooms full of entrepreneurial women who were teaching me about goals and success and time management. It also means I know more about makeup than I do about cars. So, like Max over there, he won't appreciate this, but ladies, every morning you wake up, you stand in front of that mirror, and it goes wash, toner, moisturizer, foundation, wrinkle-free eye cream, base eyeshadow, dark eyeshadow, blush, eyeliner, mascara, lip liner, and lipstick. See, Max is over there like, this dude was a high school cheerleader. But I am really excited to be here. I have so much respect for Jasmine. Obviously, she is one of the best, most influential, and most powerful women, I think, in the world. And it's an honor to know you, Jasmine, and to get to be in your presence and to just get to be here with your people. And we talk about personal brands, and we work with some of the biggest personal brands. The people that you saw in that video are clients of ours, and they are doing really, really big things in the world. But most of our clients are not the Ed Miletts and the John Maxwells and the Amy Porterfields and the Jasmine Stars of the world. Most of them are hardworking entrepreneurs, professional service providers who are using their personal brand to drive leads for their business. They're not all trying to sell books or coaching programs or masterminds. Most of our clients are trying to sell a service or a product, and they're just trying to understand and leverage their personal brand to do that, and also to maybe recruit and attract team members and that kind of a thing. So, I think we're going to start with today, like, what is a brand? Just super fundamental. What does that even mean? Like, what is a brand? And my favorite story about this is about my wife, AJ. Okay, so just by show of hands, how many of you are happily married? Okay, how many of you are just married? Okay, just kidding. Don't share. But I'm very, very happily married. AJ and I have been married since 2010, and we started as business partners, actually, in our first company together. And we had a mutual friend, and we started a company together. And then it was a year later that we started dating, and then we fell in love. Then we got married. Then we had kids, sold our first company. Our first business was 8 figures. We had 200 people on our team. We sold that in 2018. And then we started Brand Builders Group in 2018. Brand Builders is also back to 8 figures. We have about 50 employees now. And but when we first got married, okay, so most of you have been married, so you've been through the process. You know what makes the marriage official is not the ceremony, it's the piece of paper, right? So AJ is a a hard-driving, red-headed, fast-moving, checklister, taskmaster, runs the house, runs the business, like runs the kids, like coordinates everything in our life. And she is a chronic overachiever. Yeah, she is power woman, like my guess is many of you are. So when we go to the county clerk's office, they slide this clipboard across the desk and to fill out the paper for the marriage license. Well, the top half of the paper is all about the wife's information, right? So she's writing in her name, her birth date, her social security number. She gets down to the bottom half of the paper, which is all about the husband. And rather than giving it to me to fill out, she naturally decides she's going to fill this out for me so that it's faster and nobody makes a mistake, right? So she's writing in my name, my birth date, my social security number. She gets down to the last question on our marriage license form, which asks about ethnicity. And she writes in for me, Caucasian. And I looked at her and I'm like, honey, what are you doing? And she goes, what? I said, you just wrote down Caucasian. She goes, yeah, so? I said, honey, I'm Mexican. And I think it was the first moment it dawned on her she was actually about to marry a Mexican man. I legit wondered for a split second if she was still going to go through with the whole thing, because it was like it totally caught her off guard. But she knew that I was Mexican. Like, she knew my grandmother was born in Mexico. She knew my mom's maiden name was Reala Vasquez. Like, she knew that, but she didn't think of me in that way. And that is the definition for what we offer as what is a brand. A brand is simply, what do people think of when they think of you? Right? And the various clients that we've worked with, we've worked very hard to get people to think about Lewis Howes in a certain way, or Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, in a certain way. We construct things to try to, because you don't control your brand, the market controls your brand because they're in charge of what they think, but you influence by how you move and operate and talk and shape, through the world, that people will think about you in a certain way. Well, that is the simple definition. Now, best part of that story, fast forward a couple nights later. So we were getting married in Nashville, which is where we live, in Nashville, Tennessee. And I grew up in Colorado, and AJ grew up in Georgia. And AJ was a debutante. Do you know what a debutante is? This is like a very Southern cotillion. It's like a Southern ball, like literally like a princess. Her family is like Southern royalty. She is cousins. She's fifth cousins with Dolly Parton. If that tells you, just like her family is like well-to-do and proper and polished and put together. My family is what you would say from the other side of the tracks. So they were meeting each other for the first time at our wedding, or like our rehearsal dinner, because they had never met because we were in a different state. So they'd all traveled to Nashville, and it was so awkward. Like, you had these two groups of people that were like not the same. And I know what my family was thinking. I mean, my whole side of the family was looking at her family like, do these people know how to party like we know how to party, Holmes? Now her side of the family, I'm pretty sure, was looking at my family like, was there a jailbreak or what has happened? So AJ says, she's like, you should stand up and tell that story about the other day at the county clerk. They'll think that's funny. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I stand up, I tell the story exactly as it happened, which is exactly as I told you. As soon as I tell the story, my whole side of the family starts cracking up. They think it's hilarious. They are like doubled over with laughter. They're like, oh, she thinks he's gringo, baby. Like, they are laughing. Her whole side of the family all look at each other at the same time, and they're like, he's Mexican? So they were like, I thought he was Cuban. I thought he was Puerto Rican. Like I thought he was Italian and all this. So anyways, our families get along great now. We've been married for over 15 years, and life is good. But this is a question to think about for yourself. What do you want people to think of when they think of you? And from a business perspective, what do you need people to think when they think of you? And also, when do you need people to think about you? right? So those are some of the fundamental questions about personal branding. So what we're going to cover this morning, Jasmine asked me to kind of like share some ideas and some of our frameworks. And so we're going to do that, for the next little bit. And then I think we'll take a break. And then Jasmine and I'll maybe do some like combined Q&A and whatever. I'm here all morning and I fly out till this afternoon. So we're just going to kind of riff later on. But while I've got you this morning, I'm going to establish the conversation talking about three things. So first of all, we're going to look at what really is a personal brand according to data. Then we're going to talk about why most personal brands fail. And if you can just avoid the one mistake that I talk about in that section, you'll be exponentially more likely to succeed. And then number three, we'll talk about how to separate yourself from the crowd and really how to sort of establish and go, all right, how do we move into this like top 1%? So first of all, what is a personal brand according to data? So people who know me or become brand builders or part of our community, they know that I'm a nerd. I am a data nerd. My undergrad was accounting. I love spreadsheets. My brain sort of thinks in like frameworks and acronyms and things like this. And we invested over $100,000 to conduct a national research study that was weighted to the U.S. Census. It was a PhD led. We followed traditional academic rigor. And to understand really what is personal branding according to the general population. So I'm going to walk you through some of those findings. And here is one of the most important parts. Almost three quarters, 74% of Americans say they are more likely to trust somebody who has an established personal brand. They're more likely to trust you. Now, you'll notice that whenever we present data and whenever we analyze data, we look at what the actual question is, but the other thing we do is we stratify by the age of the respondents. The reason that we do that is when you stratify data by the age of the respondents, we can pretty much guarantee that we can predict the future. Why? Because as these people age out, these people move up, and so whatever these people say is how it's going to trend in the future, and that's one of the things that we analyze data. Well, look at this. Older millennials who are 35 to 44, over 85% of them say they are more likely to trust someone who has an established personal brand. So this is not a fad. Social media like kind of came on and was like, is this a fad? And we kind of like this, and now we're all annoyed with it, and it's kind of consuming, and it's kind of cool, and I find some cool. This is a fundamental part of how business will continue to be done in at least the next 20 and 30 years, and probably longer. Okay, so that's just trust. But what does trust mean from a business perspective? So we dove in deeper, and the synthesis of this entire study, I would summarize by saying this. Personal branding is simply the digitization of your reputation. So when we hear the term personal brand, people tend to think like, it's your colors, it's your fonts, like your typography, or it's your logos, or it's your photography, or it's your website, or it's social media, or it's podcasts. And it's none of those things. It's way more fundamental than those things. When you hear the term personal brand, your brain should think reputation. This is not a new concept. It's a new expression of a very, very old concept. And we know that reputation precedes revenue. So sometimes people will say, they'll say, Rory, I'm thinking about joining Brand Builders Group because I'm thinking about maybe I should build my personal brand. But you can't think of it like that way. That'd be like saying, I'm thinking about building a reputation. No, you already have one. Like whether you like it or not, you have one. You don't get to choose whether or not you have one. It's just what is it? What is your reputation, and how well are you known? Right? So we all have a personal brand. Now, when you look and you translate, okay, how does this affect business? It gets really interesting. But before we look at the professional aspects, I want to make an important point about the personal aspects. One of the things that we've come to believe is that it's not only reputation from a principle's sake, but from a character perspective. We've seen time and time again that your influence will never grow wider than your character runs deep. Your influence will never grow wider than your character runs deep. So while we are a personal brand strategy firm, and yes, we're going to talk tactics, and yes, we do ad strategy and funnel optimization, and we do, videos and book launches and speaking and storytelling and all of these things about personal branding, the foundation is still reputation, personal development, and character. Because you've all seen examples of where this has collapsed, right? We've seen major celebrities, we've seen online influencers, we've seen big authors, we've seen people who have come into this space, blown up, and then completely crashed. And it's because of this. So you can fake it for a while, but eventually the truth comes to the surface. And I think that's a beautiful thing for real entrepreneurs like you, because it's like you are women of substance, you are women of character. And you don't have to have millions of followers to make millions of dollars. We'll talk more about that. But from a professional standpoint, this is pretty compelling. 63% of Americans say they are more likely to buy from someone who has a personal brand versus just a corporate brand, right? They're more likely to recommend you, do business with you. They're more likely to work for you. They're more likely to vote for you. Check this one out. This is one of my favorites. 30% of people say they're more likely to go on a date with you just because you have an established personal brand. Ooh la la, right? Like you used to have to be smart, funny, charming. Now you just have to have a Canva Pro account. Like that's it. So, but everyone tends to think, well, yeah, of course, podcasters and course creators and authors and speakers would have to have that. And that is how we started, by the way. We coach many of the most successful speakers and authors and coaches in the world. But what's happened is part of why Brand Builders Group has grown so fast is because of this next slide. See, we wanted to understand, how does personal brand affect real entrepreneurs? I say real, quote unquote, real entrepreneurs, real business owners, and traditional business owners. And so we asked Americans about other professional services. And here's what we found. The number one profession that Americans said they want to have a personal brand is doctors. 61% of Americans want to know who their doctor is. Are you a doctor? Yeah. Everyone's like looking at you. They're like, what kind of doctor you are? Okay. So this has been huge for us. So I'll talk about a few doctors, but like Dr. Josh Axe is one of our clients. He'd be an example of someone we worked with for years that was a chiropractor who has like grown really, really, really big 9-figure business. So lawyers, financial advisors, right? And then you get down into like coach, right? Okay. So you have, this at first was shocking. We didn't expect to see this. And then when we started to go, what is the pattern here? It's a very simple pattern. The higher the requirement for trust, the more important having an established personal brand becomes. Right? Like if you're going to cut me open, I kind of want to know, like, where did you go to school? Like, how long have you done this? How many times has this happened, right? Pretty big deal. Now, if you're mowing my yard, maybe doesn't matter so much, but still a little bit because you're in my home, right? So the question, again, think just to yourself, how much do you think trust matters in your particular space? If it matters a lot, I wouldn't contend, the data contends that your personal brand is a really significant, important, empirical, objective driver of your business success. Okay? So, doctor case study. This is one of my favorite case studies. So this is a woman who we started working with in 2021, and she's a doctor. like a real doctor, like medically trained practitioner. She was a private practitioner. She still has a private practice. And when we met her, she had less than 100,000 social media followers. She had never written a book. She wasn't a podcaster. She wasn't a YouTuber. She had little to no public speaking appearance and had no really like scalable monetization strategy other than just like serving patients. We started working with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon in 2021. And I don't know, do any of you guys recognize her? She has blown up. And she is, if you've never met her, the coolest, smartest, hardest working, most humble woman who just wants to change the world. She's not trying to be famous. She's already rich. Like it's just, she wants to change the world. And a part of what her messaging was that we're not overweight. We're under-muscled. That was a part of the clarifying message that we said, let's take that little message, broadcast it to the world, right? So she has TED Talk goes out. We helped her with the book launch. She is, now scaling 2 million social media followers. She's on Huberman and Jocko. She spoke on the stage with me and Mel Robbins and Tony Robbins at Keller Williams with 17,000 agents at this conference. Sold over 100,000 books. She hit number 3, her first book, first time, hit number 3 on the New York Times. So this is, listen to this a little bit. Number 3 New York Times, you hit multiple weeks, which is extremely difficult to do, and all the bestseller lists. So just how did you do it? How the heck did you do that?
Number one, the material was really good. I spent 17 years becoming an expert, trained by one of the world-leading experts. So the material and the evidence and the message was authentic to me and real and backed by science. Number 2, my relationships. And number 3, you guys. That's it.
So notice the order that she says them, right? Number 1 is her expertise, right? Like that has to be there. We don't help people with their expertise. They have to be an expert when they come to us. We do help them conduct national research studies, like the ones that we did that I'm citing. That's a really common thing we do to help someone bolster or establish their expertise, is we conduct these national research studies. But separate of that, like we don't advise people on their expertise. Second is their relationships, right? We teach the same thing to everybody, right? But Ed Milet has a more explosive result than a brand new brand builder, not because we're teaching them different things. It's because it's what we're teaching them multiplied by their relationships. So the power of your network matters a lot. And then third is strategy, which is what we really dive in on. But you got to have the expertise and you got to have really good relationships. Doesn't mean you have to have famous people. It means people have to genuinely trust you. And then if so, we can really activate that. So AI obviously is now a really interesting conversation that is now kind of like coming into this space and going, all right, how then are we taking the humanness of an individual and blending it with AI? So a lot of what we do is our strategy is we take the LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, etc. as a base. Then we take our proprietary intellectual property and we layer it on top. So we create custom bots where we layer in how we do things, which chat, you can't get it anywhere else. So we closely guard those methodologies and they're not in the public domain. So someone just using ChatGPT by itself can't access that because ChatGPT doesn't have access to that. And then the third part is our members come in and they interact with the bots, applying their expertise and their relationships, and that's what makes the magic happen. And that's what makes the magic happen fast, is this sort of intersection, right? So you got the LLMs, you've got the brand bot, and then really the magic ultimately is you. And you kind of determine your own success. But a good example is like this book launch bot. So we've done so many of these launches that we now have built these bots that will literally write all the sales pages, all the email sequences, all the social media posts, 30 days of what to put in your launch team, how to draft for endorsements, a custom talk track to book speaking engagements, because we're using it again and again and again and again, right? I would encourage you to also think about what are the processes that you have that are unique to your business. can you systematize them and gate them so where it's not just people using AI, they're using your AI. They can only get that experience from you. So we've had over 100. So we've had 100 national bestsellers, and 22 of our clients have hit the New York Times bestseller list in the last 2 years. And it's just the same process again and again and again and again and again. So we're systematizing speaking, coaching, etc. By the way, I put a little reminder in this. If at any point you want to talk to us, you can scan. Jasmine has a QR code where you can request a call with our team. And if you do it, we will give you our audiobook, the one AJ and I just wrote, for free. So if at any point you guys are curious about talking to us, we do the first call with everybody for free. We talk to them one-on-one, and then we'll give you the audiobook as well so you can kind of like learn more about us. But that is what is a personal brand and how we see the intersection of AI and personal branding happening really right now. Now, let's talk about why most personal brands fail. And here's what I want you to do. Here's what I'll have everyone do. Everyone, if you don't mind, just stand up just for a second, just really quick. And don't worry, I'm not going to make you touch anybody or do anything. Well, you don't have to jump or stand on your chair or anything weird. Okay? All I want you to do is everyone turn and face the person to your left. Everybody look at the person to your left. Okay, great. Now turn back and face the person to your right. Now look at the person on your right. Okay, very good. Now this is the tricky part, and here's where the choice comes in. I want you to think very hard, and then I want you to turn back and face the better looking of the two. So awkward, I know. It's so mean. And by default, all of you are looking at me. Thank you. Thank you for that. You can sit back down. Why would I do something so terrible? The reason why is it demonstrates an important principle of what we're about to talk about. There is a big difference between simple and easy. Huge, right? Left and right is a simple choice. I asked you to make a simple choice. But when I change the context on you, it becomes a difficult choice to make. And a huge part of your success is being able to make simple choices in moments where the context changes. So it's much easier to be in a room like this, among other ambitious, focused, successful people saying, I'm going to commit to do these things. But then when you leave this room and you go into the context of the world and the craziness of kids and family and customers and team members and the news and the context shifts and it becomes much harder to execute even on the simple things. What I'm going to share with you right now is extraordinarily simple. Like, it's so simple, you're probably not going to believe that this is the one thing that separates the biggest personal brands in the world from everybody else. But I'm telling you it is. And it's because even though it's simple, it's very hard to execute on. This is something that we call Sheehan's Wall. Okay, now Sheehan's Wall is a visual framework that we've created that is meant to codify sort of the large landscape of personal branding. And there's basically two groups of people in the world. So there are those who are unknown, okay, and this could be in any industry, any geography, any sort of vertical market. There are those who are unknown. They're living in obscurity, right? Not super recognizable in their space. And then there are those who are well-known. And in between those two groups is this huge invisible wall that we call Sheehan's Wall, because I named this after a gentleman named Peter Sheehan, who was a colleague of mine, who I originally learned this from in a corporate environment, and we've adapted it to personal brands, so we named it after him. But what tends to happen, particularly in the world of personal branding, is those of us who are unknown tend to look at the people who are well known and we say, I'm going to emulate what those people do. And I want to do what they do, right? And so if you look at Tony Robbins talks about lots of topics, right? He talks about money and health and date with destiny, and he has business mastery, and he has life mastery, and he has unleash the power within, and he's got all of these different topics. Or Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, music and sports and entertainment and crypto and wine and, social media and marketing and you look at somebody like Oprah, and she's involved in all these different things, has a production company, and, she has a magazine, which, by the way, she made the cover of Oprah magazine again this month, which is incredible. She makes it almost every single month. And she does all of these things. Or The Rock is a great example of someone right now who you go, oh, he's got, a clothing line and sports drink, and he owns, a portion of the XFL, and now he's got men's facial products that are in Target, and all of these different things. And so what we do is we look at those people and we make the mistake of going, well, I'm a multi-passionate person, which is not a mistake, but we try to talk about lots of different topics because they talk about lots of different topics. And then we try to address lots of different audiences because they address lots of audiences. And this is also a poll that you probably feel right now, right? Because even on social media, you're like, well, who's my audience? Well, like grandma is following me, and like the parents of my kids' best friends, and the people I go to church with, and then like my entrepreneur friends and my customers, but I'm really trying to attract prospects, and I've got like all of these audiences I'm catering to. And then we're trying to manage lots of different profiles, right? We're on, Twitter X and Meta Facebook and Pinterest and Instagram, and Snapchat and YouTube and podcasts. And okay, so we're doing all of those things. And then every time you scroll, somebody's like pitching a new business model. Like, did you know that you could make millions like doing Airbnb? You could fix and flip. Like, you could do investment properties. You could do stock trading. You could do a course. You could launch a membership site. You could do a mastermind, destination retreats, be a speaker, become a coach, like publish a book. And so there's like lots of different revenue streams. And then what's happening is we're talking to too many audiences about too many different topics, trying on too many different places, trying to monetize too many different things. And what happens is you bounce off the wall. And the reason you bounce off of the wall is because of something we said all the way back in my first book, Take the Stairs, which is so simple that people overlook it. When you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. Period. Most of you, I'm guessing, are fairly small businesses. You have less than 200 employees. Does anyone in here have more than 200 employees? Okay. Does anyone have more than 20 employees? Okay. So we have 50, and we had 200 with our first business, right? And it's a truckload of, everything is fun until people get involved, and it's like, yeah, it's complicated. But if you're a small business, okay, so even under 200, we're all small businesses. Just think about this logically for a second. If you have 10 units of resource, okay, now what is a unit of resource? We think of it as time, attention, technology, team, capital, and prayer, right? Now, whatever your units of resource are, okay, but let's just say you have 10 units of resource, and you have 10 different initiatives going on in your company. Okay? On average, math majors, if you have 10 units of resource for 10 initiatives, how many units of resource on average does each initiative get? 1 unit of resource. That is the entire world. The entire entrepreneurial world is people who are taking 10 units of resource and spreading them across 10 initiatives. When somebody hires us, I'm almost embarrassed to admit how ridiculously simple our strategy is. Our strategy is simply to go, what if you took all 10 units of your resource and you put them on one initiative? What do you think would happen if one person put 10 units of resource on that one initiative, what do you think the likelihood is that they would outperform everyone else on that initiative? Pretty strong, right? That is exactly what we do. By the way, this is my real life. This is my kid, and this is what I'm dealing with every day at work. Can you relate? Right? Like I'm literally on a Zoom meeting. I look over, and this is what I'm dealing with. Okay, so we have 2 boys, and they're crazy. I love them. They're maniacs. They are maniacs. And so I know what it's like to deal with distraction, okay? I feel this too. And the best example, the best personal branding advice I've ever heard was from this gentleman, Larry Winget. And Larry said the goal is to find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. And that's all we did for my career. And then now, but see, Larry never developed a system for how to do it. He said that's what you should do. What Brand Builders has done is we've just created a system for how to find your uniqueness and then how to do that over and over and optimize the heck out of that thing really, really well. Visually, it looks like this, okay? So imagine this wall back here, okay? So imagine you just have like a big wall and you take a sledgehammer and you're trying to break through the wall. Right? Now, if I'm trying to break through this wall and I'm hitting here and here and here and here and here and here and here, and nothing's going to happen to that wall. But what would happen if I hit the same spot on the wall over and over and over again? At first, it would feel frustrating because I'm still not getting anywhere. That's just the nature of starting something. But if you kept hitting the same spot again and again and again and again, eventually the paint would crack, and then it would peel, and then it would chip, and then there would be a hole, and then a divot, and then finally you would punch through to the other side, and then you pull that sledgehammer back, and the entire wall would come crashing down. That is our strategy because that is the strategy that we noticed that people who are wealthy and well-known, all of them emulate. All of them. Like, we have not really found a great example of one super rich or one super famous person who didn't break through the wall initially by becoming well-known for one thing. One thing, right? If you think about The Rock, yes, The Rock owns a bazillion different businesses. But in the beginning, what was the one thing The Rock became super famous for? Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? He was a wrestler. Yes, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about 1 million topics on 1 million platforms, but in the beginning, what topic did he become world-renowned, well-known for? Wine. And on one platform. Do you remember what it was? It was YouTube. Later was Twitter, and now it's everywhere, right? Right. In the beginning, right, Oprah was a host. In the beginning, Ellen DeGeneres was a comedian. In the beginning, Wolfgang Puck was a chef. In the beginning, Alex Rodriguez was a baseball player. There's not a counterexample. Jennifer Lopez was a dancer and an actress, like one thing at a time. They break through the wall. And by the way, so I coach, this is crazy to say, I have 7 billionaire clients that are private clients of mine that I coach, which blows my mind because they're like way, way, way rich. None of them got rich from multiple streams of income. Multiple streams of income is some of the dumbest advice that you will ever hear. Because nobody gets rich from multiple streams of income. Every single person who got rich from one freaking amazing stream of income, right? Jeff Bezos, his money comes from one primary place. Where? Amazon. Bill Gates made his money from one company. Which one? Microsoft. People say, what about Elon Musk? Yeah, what about Elon Musk? I know he has Tesla and SpaceX and da-da-da. But where did he make his money in the beginning? Do you know? PayPal. He made all of his money from PayPal. Jamie Kern-Lima is a good friend of mine. So she's doing all sorts of stuff. In the beginning, It Cosmetics. Sarah Blakely made her money from Spanx. These are not people who got rich from doing 10 different things or even 5 different things. They broke through the wall on one thing. Now, once you break through the wall, then you get to the other side, then you can expand into lots of other things because now you have more units of resource. You have more time, team, capital, technology, attention that you can deploy, so you don't get rich through diversification. You don't. You get rich through concentration. And then once you're rich, then you diversify. That same principle of money applies to branding and messaging and operating small businesses. So here's a great example. Okay, so Lewis Howes was our first customer. We've been working with Lewis since 2018. I met Lewis because my first book from our first company, Take the Stairs, hit the New York Times, and I was on his podcast, and everyone was like, hey, there's this new up-and-coming podcaster. His name's Lewis, and he's got this show. And at the time, he had like 8 million downloads on his podcast. And so we became friends, and I was like, oh, he's really cool, and we're the same age. And so I told him, I said, hey, you should write a book one day. And he's like, it's funny, I'm actually thinking about it. And so I helped him casually, not as a client, just as a friend, and we kind of built this relationship. Well, fast forward like 6 years, I'd kind of lost touch with Lewis, and his podcast had grown to be about 30 million downloads. And he called me in 2018. We had just exited our former company, and he said, Rory, the podcast is growing, the team is growing, I'm doing multi-7 figures in revenue, but I'm spread really thin, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm spending all the money on staff, I'm not keeping much money. And he's like, is there any chance that I could borrow your brain and like formally work with you? And we said, great. So he comes over to the house, we spent 2 days together. The very first thing we did, we took him through an exercise that we take all of our clients through, right? They all have access to this exercise called the revenue stream assessment, where we ask them to list out all of the different revenue streams. And Lewis proudly lists out the fact that he had 17 revenue streams. And I said, Lewis, why do you have so many revenue streams? He's like, well, I'm in all these masterminds, and all these guys are doing free plus shipping, and they're doing courses, and they're doing like podcasting, and they're doing ads, and they're doing speaking, and they're doing one-on-one coaching and all of this stuff. And he's like, multiple streams of income, baby. And I said, Lewis, I got to tell you, I think that's terrible advice. And at the time, his podcast was a traffic source. It wasn't even really a moneymaker. But one of the things we look at is what revenue stream has the most natural momentum for you? Which one has the highest potential with the least amount of energy that also is the most like life-giving for you? And that for him was podcasting, even though it wasn't a lot of money. And I said, Lewis, what do you think would happen if you shut down all of these revenue streams and just went all in on the podcast? And that was basically pretty much the only thing I've ever really done for Lewis was I encouraged him to do that. And much to his credit, Lewis took 17 revenue streams and immediately shut them down to 3. That's actually how I met Jasmine. Jasmine was in a mastermind that Lewis was hosting, and that was a multi-7-figure revenue stream, and we decided to shut it down overnight. After one conversation, he walked away from over $2 million in revenue. Now, where I come from, that's called big cojones. But, and so he went all in, 17 down to 3, all in on the podcast. So it had taken him about 7 years to get to 30 million downloads. In the next 2 years that we worked together, he went from 30 million downloads to 500 million in 2 years. Today, he has 1 billion, so he's now added another 500 million. He's getting $150,000 to speak. He sold the rights to the podcast for 8 figures just for a few years. We've hit the New York Times 3 different times. The following is blowing up. And the main strategy was not trying to hack the algorithm or whatever. It's just focus, is putting all of the resources on fewer things. And most people don't have the discipline to do it. Now, sometimes people think, oh, well, great, Rory, that's great for people with millions of followers. But I told you, those are not most of our clients. We tell those stories because they're the most familiar people. But this is a great example of someone we worked with named Tyler Bloom. This guy was an executive search, like a headhunter, right? Like a recruiter. And he was, you know, I don't know if he got fired or he left. He had issues with like his job, and he's like going into business for himself, and he's trying to search and do all these like different placements. And we're like, but he's super passionate about golf. And it's like, all right, Tyler, what if all you did was go all in on doing executive search just for golf courses? So Tyler does this. 2 years later, he's making over $1 million a year more than he was before that. A super narrow niche in a very, very, very specific industry, right? So he says himself. Now, once you break through the wall, then you can expand into other things. You can hire people. You can do more stuff. So here's the genesis in our world, in our universe. The very first question that every personal brand must answer, and you must be able to answer this question with one word, and most people can't, which is, what problem do you solve in one word? In one single word. And most people can't do that, but the reason it matters is because customers don't really buy, like we think people spend money on luxuries, like vacations and cars and homes, but people really only spend money on luxuries if they have the money. But people always have money to solve problems. So if you can articulate what you do in the context of a problem that you solve for somebody, then they will always find the money, right? Like if you get a flat tire, you find the money. If your hot water heater goes out, you find the money. Your kid gets sick, you find the money. People always have money in any geography, in any economy, in any industry to solve problems. And what most personal brands do is they try to position themselves as just the solution. And really what you want to do is broadcast the problem. You want to promote the problem. You want to celebrate the problem. You want to study the problem. You want to draw awareness to the problem, because people don't know that they need that solution, but they know they have the problem. So when you talk about the problem, they pay attention, right? So if you aren't crystal clear on what problem you solve, there's no way your customers ever will be either. So what is that problem? And let's look at some examples, okay? Now, these are not clients of ours. So Brene Brown, one of my favorite examples. Brene Brown has become one of the most influential women in the world. Not just influential influencers, not just influential authors. Time magazine, one of the most influential women in the world. But Brene Brown is not a podcaster. She's not an author. She's a researcher. She's a professor at the University of Houston. But Brene Brown dedicated decades of her life to studying one thing, shame. And she became the world's most renowned leading authority on the topic of shame. You can't have a conversation about shame without somebody bringing up Brene Brown's name. When that word comes up, they think of her. Shame, and then shame is the problem, and vulnerability is the solution. Another good example. This is a friend of mine, not a client. I mean, I've spoken for their team internally 3 times. Dave's given me a couple endorsements for my books, but Dave Ramsey, love him or hate him, I happen to love him and think he's quite entertaining, solves the problem of debt. Now, if you know anything about Dave Ramsey, this guy has been saying the exact same thing on the radio every single day for 3 hours, the same exact 7 baby steps over and over and over again for 3 hours live on the radio for 30 years. Again and again and again. It never changes. It's never different. It's never a new problem. It's the same thing. Debt is dumb. Cash is king. And that is his brand positioning. Debt is a one-word problem he solves. Cash is the solution. By doing that, do you realize that Dave Ramsey has over 1,000 employees now? They reach 17 million people on the radio every single week, 1 billion podcast downloads, $300 million in annual revenue. Over and over and over again. If you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. Right? Tony Robbins has dedicated his life to ridding the world of pain, right? And he struggled with food insecurity as a kid, and he talks about eliminating pain. Mel Robbins is having like big moment right now in the world, like just killing it. Mel Robbins helps people overcome their anxiety. That is a big part of what she struggles with. With Lewis, all we did was sort of narrow the brand orientation down to self-doubt. That Lewis helps people overcome self-doubt. That's what his brand is all about. And greatness is the one word that he owns. But even beyond business, right? Mother Teresa dedicated her life to ridding the world of poverty. Martin Luther King Jr. literally gave his life to fight for inequality and racism. And so part of the question is, what problem would you dedicate your life to solving? That is part of where your uniqueness lies. That is what we got to get to. Now, we built my career. These days, people tend to think of us as, personal brand and branding, because that's what we've been doing for 8 years. But previous to 8 years ago, we didn't do any of this. I broke through the wall and built my career as an expert on procrastination. And I invented and studied 2 new terms. I invented the term creative avoidance, which is unconscious procrastination, and priority dilution, which is the chronic overachiever's procrastination, which is that the same net result is that chronic overachievers don't procrastinate out of laziness, but out of interruption. They get interrupted all day, and so their most important tasks are left incomplete. And that was how I built my brand originally. And I broke through the wall when I was 29 on my first book, Take the Stairs, and then had a TED Talk go viral on overcoming priority dilution and how to multiply time. And that was the second book. Today at Brand Builders Group, we only solve a one-word problem, obscurity. That's our problem, obscurity. We help people become wealthy and well-known, people who are mission-driven messengers, who have expertise and deserve to be more well-known, but who are struggling with obscurity. What problem do you solve? In one word. You've gotta really think about owning that and dominating it, and then becoming an ambassador of the problem. You celebrate it, you study it, right? Our research study is all around personal branding and obscurity. Now, here's the question, okay? So this is the question, is what problem should you solve? Now, normally, when we work with clients, we take them, the very first stage is we take them through a 2-day experience called Finding Your Brand DNA, and we help them get clear on 4 things. What problem do you solve in one word? How do you solve that problem in one sentence? Who do you solve that problem for in one phrase? And what one revenue stream matters in your business above all others? Those are the 4 things. I'll say them again. What problem do you solve in one word? How do you solve that problem in one sentence? Who do you solve that problem for in one phrase, like ours is mission-driven messengers? And what one revenue stream matters above all others? We have found the sooner you get clear on those 4 things and you focus on them, the sooner you're going to have success. And by the way, so on this note, we're doing this a lot, going, you don't need to have 50 lead magnets necessarily. What you really want is one lead magnet that converts, that drives people, we call them trust soldiers. You have one trust soldier, then you have one trust accelerating experience, like a webinar or a challenge, or it doesn't matter, there's all these different formats, but we go one lead magnet, one trust accelerating experience to one offer. And then it's again and again and again and again and again. And you can tailor the front end to different audiences, but the back end is just that again and again and again, right? Now, people always want to know, okay, we don't have 2 days here. How do you find your uniqueness? So I'm going to give you the biggest secret that we've discovered. I'm going to share it with you now. We didn't know this when we started Brand Builders Group. We never expected this. We discovered this after we took a couple thousand people through the process. And here's what we learned and we found to be true for all of us. For every single one of you, you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. The reason that self-doubt is the problem that Lewis solves is because that's what Lewis struggles with. That's what he struggled with his whole life. He was made fun of as a kid, and then he found an identity in sports, and then he lost that identity, and he struggled with that, right? Mel Robbins struggles with anxiety. Mel is not a client of ours. She's a casual friend, but she's not somebody that we've worked with. But you can look at her and go, she has panic attacks, right? She struggled with getting out of bed. It's her whole story. She created a 5-second rule to help her take action in those moments of anxiety. And she's breaking through the wall. So what problem have you overcome? That's who you're most powerfully positioned to serve. It doesn't mean that's the only thing you can do, but it means that's where the most natural momentum is going to lie. And so the answer to your uniqueness is somewhere connected into this. All right. So again, how are we using AI? Human principles, and then we're just putting the technology behind it, right? So we have brand positioning bot, which you sit there and you chat with it, and it has all of our coaching, all of our training, all of our feedback kind of wrapped up together in one place, so that it's like you're coaching with our IP. So if you're not in the world of custom bots, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to do that. So again, I mentioned this, so we're going to land the plane here in just a second. So if you want to talk, you guys can scan that code. Let me, Jasmine, I'm going to fast forward here a little bit. And now, one of the things I want to share is that a little disclaimer. So people want to know who you are. They want your real expertise. But it is true that if you suck in real life, you will suck online. And I'm sorry, I cannot help you with that. Okay? So just like a disclaimer there is like, we can't just like take anybody and be like, right? You have to like have some substance. But the thing of it is you don't need millions of followers to make millions of dollars, right? None of you have ever heard of Tyler Bloom. None of you have ever heard of Tyler Bloom, right? These are 12. Now there's 11, and then we just had our 12th, which is a guy named Blake Erickson and Dr. Ben Hardy, that have made over $1 million more a year since we started working with them. Some of these people you recognize, a lot of them you don't. You don't need millions of followers to make millions of dollars. Why? Most of you, if you had a couple dozen of your perfect customer this year, you would explode. Like you could have your best income year ever if you had 20 of your perfect clients. And so you don't have to always play the game of like, how do I get millions of people? You don't need millions. You need 20. Right? Like, how do I get my next 10 customers? That is what matters. And so you don't always have to chase like the vanity of the big things, right? And more followers. Now, so this leads me to the great irony of personal branding, right? The great irony of personal branding is that your personal brand is not about you. Your personal brand is about who you serve. And I will say, I love Simon Sinek. I'm a huge, huge Simon Sinek fan. We read his books. We believe in what Simon Sinek teaches. But when it comes to building a personal brand, I think start with why is the wrong advice. Because when you start with why, people tend to get very nebulous in their like, why am I doing this? My encouragement to you would be to not start with why, instead start with who. Who are you serving? I promise you, the more clear you get about who you're serving, once you're clear about who you're serving, every single other tactical downstream business decision becomes clear. You know where to advertise. You know what words to use. You know what offers to put together. You know how to price it because you know what they can afford. You know how to structure your things because you know their lifestyle. You know where you should speak, where you should show up, which podcast you should go on, who you should be networking with. Every other downstream tactical business decision becomes clear if you're clear on who you serve. If you're not clear on who you serve, you're just shotgunning out there into space, and you're likely to bounce off the wall. Right? We serve mission-driven messengers. It's a very narrow, specific, it's not just like, it is experts, speakers, authors, coaches, but it's someone who specifically says, I care more about impact than income. I care more about more about mission than money. I care more about reputation than revenue. It's not that they don't care about money. We like money. We care about money. It's just not their number one thing. So we know how to talk because we're talking to that person. And that's what building a great personal brand is all about. Building a great personal brand should not be self-centered. It should be service-centered. And if some of you have been reluctant to it, my guess is it's because you're like, well, I don't want to be vain. I don't want to look like I'm trying to get attention. I'm not trying to like tout my accomplishments, or I'm not trying to look like I have a know-it-all, like I'm a know-it-all. All of those things are self-centered. Service-centered just goes, how can I help? What content can I create that is useful for other people? Figure out what are all the questions your avatar has and answer them one at a time and focus on being useful. It may not be what goes viral, but it will perform well, and most importantly, it will convert. Is going, I don't have to be the most entertaining, but if I'm the most useful, it will convert. Your highest self, I would argue, is to be your highest value to others. And to the extent you can be valuable to more people, then you're not just building a great personal brand, you're making a bigger impact in the world. You're making a bigger difference. You're doing bigger work. See, we love selling. Selling is fun. Selling is how you make money. Selling is an important part of business. But when you are selling, there are wins and losses. However, when you are serving, there are only wins, right? Like if the goal wasn't how many followers did I get or how many leads did I capture, if the goal was how do I create content that's so useful to people, they would miss it if it was gone. How can I create insights and inspiration and education and encouragement that's so valuable to people that it would help them even if they never bought anything from me? You cannot lose when that happens. It's different from how most of the world is operating, but this is the truth. And if it is true that you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were, then some more tactical questions you have to ask yourself is simply, what challenges have you conquered? What obstacles have you overcome? What setbacks have you survived? Right? And also, what gets you emotional, right? Like, what makes you mad? What makes you sad? What breaks your heart? It's not just like the things that are all kind of like, hunky-dory, but what's the thing that you look out in the world and you say, I'm not okay with that. I don't want anyone else to have to experience that heartbreak because I can do something about it. And we believe that the calling you feel on your heart to build a personal brand is the result of a signal that's being sent out by somebody else who needs you. And that person needs you way more than you need them. Right? For you, it's another customer. It's another email. It's another contact in your database. It's another lead. But there's people out there right now who are begging and pleading and seeking and searching and could quite possibly be on their hands and knees praying for answers to questions that you know like the back of your hand. And the only reason you wouldn't go and find them is because you're scared, right? You're scared about, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to look I don't want to look silly. I don't want to be somebody who is vain. I don't know about the technology. I don't know about the lighting. I don't know about my makeup. And we're so scared about what people will say about us or what they're going to judge. And that, what's wild about that is you only feel fear when you're thinking about yourself. Right? Do I look the right way? Am I saying the right thing? Am I doing? It's all I. But there is no fear when the mission to serve becomes clear. When you let go of how do I look, am I doing it right, and you just go all in on who can I help? How can I serve? How can I create the most impact in the shortest amount of time? That is how you build a great personal brand and a huge business. Ladies, thanks for having me this morning. It's such a treat.
Okay. I'm very excited because the one word thing really struck with me. So I have 2,700 members in Paint Party headquarters, and my
Wow.
goal is 5,000.
It's called Paint Party Headquarters.
Yes, I actually taught your wife a hat painting party. She came, I live in Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
So she came to
Oh,
my
yeah, she
hat
told me to
painting.
tell you hi. That's right. Yeah, she told
I
me.
was texting her the other day. So anyway, I always say like I'm here to bring hope to the starving artist.
Okay.
Like, that's my thing. So I think my word is hope, and then it's a profit every party for artists and crafters, and Paint Party headquarters is my revenue stream.
Okay.
Does that sound right, or am I on the wrong track?
Okay, so there's, this is a little more tactical than we got into, but so when we work with someone, we create a brand positioning statement, and there are 5 different elements of it. One of the elements is what problem do you solve in one word? One of the other elements is what is your uniqueness? Another way of saying that would be like your solution, which is also one word. So hope could possibly be your uniqueness. That could be your solution, but the problem must be a negative. It has to be an issue that someone's struggling with.
So broke.
It could be that. It could be that. Yeah. It would be the problem. Some other characteristics of the problem are that it has to be something that they know they're struggling with and that they're willing to admit they're struggling with. Because if they don't know they're struggling with it, they're not going to be receptive to your marketing signals. And if they're not willing to admit that they're struggling with it, then they're not going to engage with the content that you're creating, right? So being broke, right, could be, or poverty or like whatever, that could be. We typically say the problem should be a noun, not an adjective. But broke is kind of both an adjective and a noun. So it could very much just be like the whole, if you said, who's your avatar? So here's the 5 elements of a brand positioning statement. So it starts with avatar. So just in what you said, you go, okay, starving artist, and maybe even more narrow. And generally speaking, we're big fans of the more specific, the more terrific. So if it was like starving artists who are painters, right? Great, super narrow. It's like the more narrow it is, the easier it is for you to dominate the space and be the world's global leader, which clearly sounds like you are. So then we go, okay, what's the problem they're struggling with? What's the thing they admit to having? Then there is what is the cause. Can I write on this?
Yes, it's there for you.
Do we have a marker? We'll go, so brand positioning statement. This is like literally day 1, stage 1, brand builders group strategy. Got to lock all this down. This is like the outcome of that 2-day experience. So it's what problem do we solve in one word? Then what is the cause? Down here we have the avatar, what we call the avatar persona, which is one phrase. Okay. Then we have what is your message in one sentence for how to solve that problem. And then what is your uniqueness? Another word for that would be solution, which is also one word. Okay, so for every person we work with, we're actually trying to slot this. And sometimes we got to learn a little bit more about your life story. But if you just said, okay, starving artists who are broke, and we go, my uniqueness is how do I teach them to be unbroke? It could be hope, but I don't think it's hope. I think that's more of like a byproduct of what you do, unless hope is the practical solution to overcoming brokenness. It's probably not. It's probably more like systems or marketing or revenue or whatever. And then the message is your one sentence command for how to solve this problem, right? So if you had broke, let's just say like, broke or poverty here, to stick with the noun thing. And if I had starving artist here, that aligns. And then you go, okay, so the problem is something they're consciously aware of. The cause is something they're not aware of. This is the real root cause. The cause is a double entendre. It's both why are they experiencing this, and it's also tends to be the cause of your life emotionally. You go, why are they really broke? What do you know that? Like if you had to say, what's the real reason they're all broke?
Yeah, I would say they just not overspend. They're just not making enough money. They need to bring in more money. And I think selfishly, I used to talk about my bankruptcy all the time, but I kept bringing in poverty. I was bringing in people who were homeless, and then they could only pay 1 month of my subscription and my membership, and then they'd be gone. So then I started talking to people who want a second job because they already have a full-time job. They could pay my monthly subscription. I know that sounds so selfish.
Right. That's all right.
I was almost like,
by the way, that's a clarification down here. Second job. That's good to know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this takes work. I mean, this is like usually like a whole 2-day thing. But, if money is a very tactical thing they're struggling with, yes. You market that makes them wake up and pay attention. And then, your thing would be going like, okay, what's my solution to that problem in one word? And then that would be like what your curriculum is sort of all about. But this is not necessarily stuff that you market. This is all what we call beneath the service, this brand positioning. You market destinations, not vehicles. This is your vehicle, so this is the truth about how to change your life. That's not the same as a marketing message. But anyways, we can chat a little bit more at break if you want.
Yeah, because that's clear as mud.
Yeah. It takes some time to kind of like need through this.
So just further clarification on the one word. So the word that came up for me was clarity. No one wants to buy clarity.
Yes.
So do you have any tips on how to drill down that sort of overarching word into something more that's, I guess, the pain point or something that's more relatable?
Yeah, so clarity could be your uniqueness. It can't be your problem. And you don't market your uniqueness. You market the problem. Okay, think of like if you use like the United States, if the problem is San Francisco, so we market where they are now and what they're struggling with. And then we market New York, which is where they're trying to get and their destination. So clarity is the truth about how to get there. That's the vehicle that we use to transport them. That's the truth about what you teach, but it's not what you market. There's a big difference between what you do in your marketing to attract customers versus what you teach in your program to create a transformation. So if I were going to market clarity, I would market clarity as a problem, or in other words, the inverse of clarity, which would be chaos or disorganization or confusion, right? And who's your avatar?
Retail and e-commerce, small businesses.
Retail, e-commerce, small businesses. Okay, so we would go, so let's say it's chaos, right? I'll just make this up. Now, once we get clear on your brand positioning statement, and this may not be yours, but I'm just gonna like hypothetical. Then we move into like copywriting as an example, and we teach something called the 15 P's of copywriting. So one of the P's, P3, is called pain. So the way you write great pain copy is describing a day in their life as it exists now. That's like the San Francisco. Then the other part of great copy is payoff copy, which is it's the inverse, describing a day in their future life as it will exist once they do your program, right? So I would say, imagine orders flooding in from your shopping cart 24 hours, 7 days a week. That's my promise, my headline. And I'll say, as a small, as a small e-commerce owner, we know the dream is passive income and people buying over and over. Except the reality for most e-commerce owners is that they're living in a world of chaos. Their systems are broken, their marketing is disorganized, they don't have clear data, they can't find good contractors, they don't know if their ad spend is converting, they're not getting enough one-click upsells, they don't know the average lifetime value of their customer, and they don't have good training protocols for hiring their team, they can't understand the agency that they're working with, and as a result, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, they're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's pulling away from their family, and their health is struggling, which is exactly why I created the e-commerce mastermind, for moms program. Okay? So
We got all that right.
yeah. So it's just, and then, those are the first 4 P's right there that I just gave you. And we can rinse and repeat that on anything. But so that's an example of problem and pain. The problem would be chaos, and pain is describe a day in their life as it exists. And then P6 is payoff, which is going, basically you just invert all those and you say, at the end of this program, imagine having all of your data neatly organized in one place, knowing exactly what your lifetime value of a customer is, having a confident way to scale predictable revenue, being able to train and onboard people on your staff so your business operates without you, right? So I'm describing a day in their future life. That's payoff. And so that's pain versus payoff, which is kind of connected to problem. But clarity, I wouldn't put it really in my marketing.
And I think that's been one of my biggest issues is what is that one word? What do we drill down into the thing that we sell?
I mean, chaos would be, chaos is the thing I would be marketing. Like, I'm literally just celebrating the problem, promoting the problem, I'm studying the problem, right? If I were going to do a research study, I'd go analyze small business owners, and I would get some data that says, 64% of e-com businesses say that they are struggling financially. They don't know how they're going to make their next payroll. 42% of them say that their marriage is on the rocks as a result of it. And so I'm just going to go study this and create data that quantifies things I already know intrinsically to be true. But, and then in terms of what you're branding, like whatever your solution is, that tends to be more associated with so uniqueness is under the surface. So we're not marketing this. Up here is payoffs. And then above that is title. These are, you brand externally, you brand these. So this is an internal moniker strategy thing to create alignment, but external, you market the problem and the payoffs, or the problem and the destination.
Where do we sign up?
Right there, actually, Jasmine Star.
A couple of people came up to me during the break and they're like, so did you tell Rory to stay focused? I was like, no, I didn't. I believe in divine alignment. I don't think that things just happen. I create this space that I have been called to create, and then it gets filled with the right things at the right time. I had no idea that Rory Vaden was going to come in and wrap this 3-day event with a red bow. No idea whatsoever. I had no idea that the hunger in this room to get and do it, a new commitment, a fresh commitment, the permission, dare I say it, to step into their personal brand. And I'm like, thank God this is happening now. So I am reading the room carefully, and I would like to use the next 25 minutes to go into Q&A and more workshopping. Now, I'm going to start, I want to sit up here with Rory because I just think osmosis, I'm going to learn more. So I'm going to sit right here, but I want to start with this question because I heard it from a few people. I solve multiple problems with the same solution. Do I talk about the problems same, or do I focus on one problem? Another question I heard is, we solve the same problem, but for different types of customers. So I want to start with prioritization of, we solve multiple problems. What does that actually look and feel like? And we solve the same problem for different people. Can we start there?
Sure.
So first one, let's start with, I solve multiple problems. And if we can get Valerie the mic, just for any sort of clarification, I solve multiple problems. The solution I sell is the same. We're going to work with Valerie, and then we're going to go to a different question, and then we're going to open up to Q&A.
One client avatar.
I just want to say, Valerie was like straight up doing burpees by herself at 5:30 this morning. Yeah. And I was just like, I literally was like, who coaches themselves to do burpees like alone? I was like, this chick is so solid. And then you were here, and it's like, of course you were here.
Like in the zone, train. Yeah. Okay. But so my problem is we solve one client avatar, and we have one product as well. It's one product, but
Love
the
it.
product itself solves the content, the delivery, and the accountability.
Okay.
Is that too? Am I getting a little bit?
So let's get a little bit more granular.
Okay.
She sells to, we'll just say broadly, nutritionists.
Yeah, nutrition and fitness coaches.
And
Okay.
it is a platform, a SaaS platform,
Yep.
that empowers them to have their content for deliverables. And it's white labeled as their own.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm just wondering if, because the problem, it was saying like, okay, what's the one?
Okay, so here's a way to think about problem. So again, start with who. When you're clear on who, everything else becomes clear. If you're fuzzy on who, everything else becomes fuzzy. So you got a super clear who. How would your who answer this question? The number one biggest issue I have in business is blank.
Disorganization and distraction.
There it is. So that's the three things you're saying are just sub things of that. So I literally was going, I think this is like disorganization, right? It's something like that, and going, the reason why your nutrition business isn't scaling is not because you're not credible, it's because you're disorganized, right? So I think, and again, you know, you can do the 15 P's of copywriting on this to go, you know, what does a nutritionist want? So imagine having an endless flow of warm customers who are committed to following your advice, who are creating transformation in their life. This is the dream of every nutritionist. You got in this business to change the world, but what we see is that most nutritionists struggle with disorganization. As they take on more clients, they start to struggle with keeping up with everybody, and then they're balancing their own personal lives, and they're struggling to create content, they're struggling to track prospects, they're struggling to check in and create accountability systems, and as a result, they're scrambling, running from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, right? And so I'm just building out the pain. So I'm introducing the promise or the payoff,
Okay.
then I'm stating the problem of disorganization, and then when I explain the pain, I'm going into the other, like, describe a day in their life of like trying to create content. I don't have time to create content. I don't have time to check in on and provide accountability. You know, I wish I could, but I can't keep up with hundreds of them. And by the way, that's why we started XYZ program. Okay. It's built for the ambitious nutritionist who wants to provide white glove experience, but doesn't have the team to do it themselves.
Okay.
Our system does content, accountability, to solve your disorganization problem and create a more streamlined experience where all of your customers feel like VIPs.
I feel like so much clarity came from this session from you. So I just want to say thank you.
Nice.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yes. So I think it's tempting to look at somebody like Rory and be like, he's so good at what he does. And he is. But I think that the difference between looking at somebody who's good at what they do and then the person who's good at what they do and standing in their purpose is that it just feels like butter. You're watching someone and you're like, you're doing the thing you were put on this earth to do. And I don't want anybody to forget that when you're really good at what it is you do and you're doing the thing that's purposeful, people are looking at you in the same way. So what you see modeled, take a bit of that with yourself. Second question, then we move into open Q&A. Our beautiful Intertwine crew who designed this event, they have a holding company, and one of their holding companies is event design, execution, coordination, wedding execution, design, coordination, a social company. Okay, so they have all these different things. But when they're talking about their design component, they sell the same solution, design, execution, but some to brides and some to corporations. So can we give Intertwine to Mike? So there were, you guys had come down to a couple, like the word, right? And you were trying to determine the word. So can you bring Rory into the word that you guys think you might have come to?
Yeah, so we do weddings, nonprofit events, corporate events. So we were joking about the fact that our problem is we solve champagne problems. I have brides with $1 million and they don't know how to spend it. Poor me. But I also have corporations that we're putting on big things. So
We know every event, every dollar they bring in is directly back to the community. So not every champagne problems, but yes.
yes. So we kept going back to the word experience because we create experiences for our brides, experiences for our clients. We also own a nonprofit where we put on summer camps for people with special needs, and that is a giant experience. So we're trying to think of the problem, which we kept going back to inexperience is the problem because these brides, these clients at the corporation, they don't know how to put on an event. So that's why they're calling us.
Is it more FOMO in that, like, when you have this one moment in time, whether it's a mastermind, whether it's your wedding, is that you want so badly for that to be the memory, the moment, that you don't want to miss that, like, opportunity, and we can help guarantee that it's everything you've ever dreamt or more, right? So how do we drill that down into one negative problem?
Yeah, so to use the framework here again, and by the way, this came up, we can show this brand DNA, everything we're doing here. So there's the Brand Builders Group full experience is 4 phases, and each phase has 3 courses. Everything we're doing today is phase 1, course 1. It all starts with this, right? If we don't get alignment on this, all the other stuff starts to break down, okay? But the brand positioning statement is our central framework for finding your brand DNA. When you say experiences, I think that would be a strong candidate for a uniqueness. You go, that's what we do that's different from everyone else. That is our solution to whatever the problem is. It's like, we don't know what I hear you saying, I don't know what the problem is, but we know what the solution is. Like, this is our thing as experiences. I go, great. So then what we know is the problem has to be the inverse of that in some way. It's the absence of that. And it's also the thing that they would be willing to admit that they have, and that would make them pay attention. So the first word that comes to mind for me, just off the top of my head without doing this deeper, but like would be like forgettable. Is I would really go, if I could study the word forgettable, and I would say, you know, like companies spend millions of dollars a year on events and nobody remembers them 3 weeks later. How do you create the unforgettable experience, right? So, yeah, and that's so part of that's great. I'm glad that you like that. So the part of how I was able to get there so quick is something that we use called the Goosey's test. All right, so can I share with you personal stuff for a second? Okay. The greatest television show in the history of the world, I think, is a show that was called World of Dance. Has anyone seen it? This was a J-Lo show, okay? And I just have to admit, I love Jennifer Lopez and I love World of Dance, okay? So, Jenny from the Block. So every once in a while, they have all these performers come out and they like grade them, and you know, it's Neo and Derek Huff and all that stuff. Every once in a while, J-Lo would say, that was so powerful, it gave me goosies. And so what she's saying, you know, she's talking about goosebumps, about like there are certain times in our, you know, human experience that we get goosebumps. For us, goosies is a test we teach our strategists to go, if a client is talking and they say something that gives you goosies, that's a signal that their uniqueness is probably around that. And I don't remember which of you said it. You may have both said it, but you said something about the word forget. And as soon as you said the word forget, I got goosies. And so that's part of where the humanness and the strategy kind of meet to really find your uniqueness and go like, ooh, forgettable is the thing. No bride wants her marriage to be forgettable. No company, no nonprofit wants to go, let's go spend $1 million on something that nobody remembers. And so I go like, can we build stuff around forgettable and go like, here's the common things that make forgettable events. You book them at boring places and you do boring things and there is no plan and you just dump your budget into blah, 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 blah. And so anyways, that's.
My mind is blowing up, right? Thank you. So our nonprofit, which is like when you stood up there and said mission, like our mission is to serve like our campers and their families. And I feel like so often they feel like they've been forgotten. And we make sure that they're seen, they're celebrated, they have a place to do that. And so like I just got it back when you said that because I'm like, oh my God, all of our stuff under one word. Like we've always never been able to connect that up. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's tapping into what this is. We call the cause. Remember, I said earlier, it's a double entendre. It's both the reason why people struggle, and it's also connected to the actual cause of your life, like the purpose of your existence is to go, there's something in your past, and again, without doing like the full 2-day experience, but I guess there's something in your past, and you probably both have some shared experience in your past that's connected to a heart for the people who are overlooked, a heart for the people who are unseen, a heart for the people who are forgotten, right? And so, I think that probably ties into the nonprofit work of like, we want to do something that helps you be remembered and be memorable and memorable events and all that stuff.
Okay. Great. Let's give a round of applause. Like, I just want to celebrate people getting these breakthroughs around their businesses. Great. And then what I want to do is we're going to go into Q&A, but I always like to pause and see like what else is going on in the room. People are already raising their hand saying, take my money. I'll see you in Nashville, right? And one of the things that the Intertwine women had said is, do we show up more like Meg and Katie, and then does it make the business about us when they have a very massive team? They have other designers and implementers and executors. And I said, do you see what just happened here? Rory became your reason to believe. And so Rory and his wife, AJ, there is brand builders, there is Intertwine, there is Rory, there is AJ, there is Katie, there is Megs. The bigger that Rory gets and the bigger AJ gets, they're ultimately pointing to the same thing. And their concern is we don't want to make it about us. Rory isn't making brand builders about him. He's making it the reason to believe. And then because we believe him, we believe he's going to curate a coach. And the coach is going to be able, by osmosis, by learning, by just being around him, that coach, when that coach gets goosies, can pass that same level on to the people who are there. That's what's happening here. And when I look at that, it's the space for me to say, Jasmine, you are and will become the reason to believe when you stand on stages for the consistent 10K. You will have coaches who sit underneath that. And you are not pointing to yourself, you're pointing to the solution to get people to where they want to go. Our dreams can get bigger, and we get into rooms like this to see it done really well and challenges us, invites us, give us the space to believe that we can do the same. So for all of us in here who believe we are our highest threshold because people must see us do it in our delivery, in the acquisition, in the fulfillment, and in the support, we're wrong. We become the reason to believe that passes on to a bigger team that we have cultivated and built trust so that our focus becomes our focus. The one thing that we are magical, irrevocably magical to do in our business, then we turn it over to a powerful team that allows us to stay what? Focused. And it's supported by systems so that when we get into your performer mode, we can trust the team that they will handle the rest of it. I just want us to continuously see how this whole event has been coming together synergistically. I know that
That's really good, Jasmine, because there's a lot of our clients, they love our coach so much. Like sometimes they won't even come to the events we have because they love their coach so much. Like their connection is to their coach, and they not even me and AJ. And it's less like, and we're always like, hey, you should come.
Like, we're cool.
Uh-huh.
Susan, no one's calling out Susan.
Yeah, because you work with Trey, you said, right? Yeah.
Peer pressure. That is some fine peer pressure. I love this. Okay, so Kat has a question.
The whole thing is focused. So I currently have 2 businesses. I
Okay.
already got rid of one focus this week, so we're down to 2. My first business is I run essentially a photo booth company, but we help marketing agencies create like ROI through experiences. So people come through the photo booth, we actually collect emails, all that kind of stuff. So we quantify it that way. I built a 7-figure photo booth business doing that kind of stuff. Then a couple of years ago, I launched my coaching course, which now focuses on helping 6-figure photo booth owners scale to 7. And talking about focus,
I essentially am the face of both of those companies in very different ways. My issue has always been since the beginning, how do I show up as a coach to help people scale their business if I don't have the business? And do I need to get rid of that one in order to build the coaching side of things? Because that one obviously generates better profit and requires less work than the agency.
Like the coaching business is more profitable? Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make anywhere close to the same amount of money right now, but
Right.
it could.
Yes. So your question. Okay. So here's the first thing that I would say. You start with who, okay, and you start with the principle. If you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. So it becomes it's very possible to serve one who, like in a psychographic sense, in a deeper way, right? So it's like I go, like a brand builders group, we serve mission-driven messengers, but we have like a very affordable virtual sort of self-study situation. Then we have our flagship coaching program, which includes events. And then we have private clients who like get in a room with our strategists and lock the door for 2 days. But it's the same vertical. I'm just serving them in a deeper way. If you're serving the same who, a lot of times that can be done like sort of in the same profile and in the same business. If you're serving two different who's, that's where it gets really messy, and now you have diluted focus to go like, I can't talk to teachers and nurses on my Instagram profile at the same time, right? So it almost to me sounds in your question like you're serving the same who. You're teaching business. No.
So she has, they're two separate who's.
Two who's,
and
okay.
she has two separate profiles and websites.
Yeah.
So is there a world, would you say the same thing for diluted focus? It's like when Kat shows up speaking to photo booth owners, that's Kat who coaches photo booth owners. And when they show up for Modern, she's speaking to agencies that are looking for experiences. She's literally creating two separate brands.
Yeah. So if you have two who's, you have two brands, you have two businesses, and you have a problem, right? Like the moment, unless you have a lot of money and a lot of team and a lot of time and a lot of technology, I would never tell someone like, oh, that's going to fail or that won't work. Like clearly it's working and it can work. But if you just go, what would happen if you went all in on one of them, right? To go whatever time because at some point I have to choose between, do I edit a video for this or do I edit a video for this? Do I get referrals for this or do I get referrals for this? Do I optimize my financial statements for this or do I optimize my financial statements for this? And that is going, excellence is never an accident. It requires a ton of focus. And you go, if you have two different things, it's, he who chases two rabbits catches neither. And it's not a recipe for failure, but I would say it's a recipe for non-ultra performance. It's a recipe for staying sort of stuck. And for entrepreneurs, we use this term called the swamp, which we say the swamp is between $1 and $4 million in revenue. A lot of entrepreneurs can hustle, fight, go hard, like redline it through talent and relationships, and they can get to 1 million and but they get stuck in the swamp between 1 and 3 million. And the reason is to build a real 8-figure business, you need to have processes and you need to have people and you need to have better product. You can't spend time recruiting, hiring, developing people, systematizing, documenting, and maximizing processes, and continually innovating on a product if you're pulled between two things. And so the number one advice I have for most entrepreneurs who have multiple businesses that are 1 to 3 million is, let's say you have two businesses that each do $1.5 million. Usually when you go in on one, that one doesn't become 3 million, it becomes 8 million. But there's some pain there because usually you go down, right? It gets worse before it gets better. There's an investment season. So without getting into the details, I can't give you exact, here's my advice on what I would do. But the principle, it's just really hard to shake from that principle of if I've got limited resources. I mean, how big is your team?
10 full-time people, and I have people that are dedicated to each brand. So like I do have the capability
To do it, yeah.
and I have agencies that create my content. So I literally spend like for the one business, Modern, I spend 2 hours a month, and they do everything in terms of content and building that personal brand. But I guess for me, it's like, how do I teach people to scale up to 7 figures in their business if I didn't like if
Oh,
if I
okay,
didn't
interesting.
have that? Like,
Okay,
that's, like,
okay, I'm
the
so glad you
hardest
said
piece.
this. So you just said the same thing twice, and that's how I know it's a limiting belief. What you just said is you're held back not at all by a tactical problem. You literally just gave me the same limiting belief twice.
Yep.
How can I teach people to do this if I don't have the thing? That is actually the thing that's holding you back. So what I would suggest is you can keep your thing and automate one of them. You can either sell it, you can shut it down, or you can automate it. But you can't build them both at the same time, right? So you can automate it and keep it, or you can shut it down, or you can sell it to somebody else. You can't build the two things. But the real issue for you is not tactically, like your thing is going, you've got this thing in your head that like, I can't build my coaching thing if I don't have this other thing. And that is completely a figment of your imagination.
And I just saved myself like 50 grand. Jasmine said this to me the first day I met her.
I'm so glad but we have to hear, do you know that we have to hear
Multiple
things,
people.
multiple people, multiple ways, multiple times, and you were only cracked open and over these 3 days to actually hear it so that it landed.
Yeah, and you're like, you've already done it, the thing.
Yeah.
You've already done the thing. So you could sell the other business, you could keep the other business, but that's not really the thing holding you back. The thing really holding you back is feeling like you have to have it in order to earn the credibility. And it almost seems to me, just like trying to hear through the lines, that what you really want to do is build this coaching business, this is more profitable. It seems like it's more life-giving, it's more fun. And then I would go and you know, again, and so not to go all crazy spiritual on y'all, but I'm a hardcore Bible thumping Jesus freak. I am. And the devil only has one tool, which is lies. And if the devil can get you to believe something, I'm always asking myself, what is the thing that if the devil gets me to believe that, it prevents me from doing the thing God has called me into being? If the devil gets you to believe that you must hang on to this old thing in order to deserve a voice or have the credibility, then that is actually pulling you back from the thing that you already know deep down you feel called to do. You already are clear that you want to do it, but there's like this thing that is hanging on. And I just go, just get rid of the thing and go do the thing you want to do. And then you can either keep the old thing or sell it or automate it or get rid of it. It doesn't matter. The part that matters is just going like, you've already earned the right to teach people how to do what you've done. Yeah,
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So one thing I wanted to do is I wanted to pause and I want to reflect back what I saw with you, Kat, is the more he started talking, the higher and higher your shoulders got and the shallower your breathing became. So your body was going immediately into defense mode. It's what the nervous system is doing to stay protected, but it's because the truth feels very revealing. If he had said you're a purple zebra, you would just be like, oh, okay, right? But he said something that felt true, seen, scared, because what he's telling you to do is to sell or close one of your biggest revenue streams. And that feels, what does it mean for my family? What does it mean to me? What does it mean about my identity?
Or automate it.
Or automate
it.
Yes.
But you can't build them both. So it's like we need to get that thing into autopilot and go build the thing you want to build, Kat. As it seems like you are clear actually. You're just kind of like scared to admit it, maybe.
So
Yeah.
good. Deanna?
You got this, buddy.
I sort of had a personal brand before I became an entrepreneur. And so it's been a lot of that shedding of mindset of that I have to please everybody. I do feel like I have my 1 or 2 words. Do you ever like have somebody tell you and then you try to guess what I do? Or do you want like the full picture?
I mean, it can be either way. But you're, you're saying that you're now an entrepreneur, and so you're got to like rebuild your personal brand.
Kind of, or somebody had mentioned earlier, like, hey, I see your stuff on Instagram, but like, I'm not your ideal client. And I'm like, well, I like to, put myself out there and share a lot.
Okay. So are you trying to get clarity on like what you should be building orienting your personal brand
I'm
around?
really clear on what it is. And
Okay.
I'm like, it's one program for one person.
Okay. And you're just wanting to get like validation on
Probably.
the semantics, the academic stuff over here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Try me.
Yeah. I am a dietitian. I help dietitians and health professionals start a virtual profitable practice. So my problem is typically under earning.
Okay.
It's master's degree, and it's usually like 40 to 70K is like what people are earning, or undervalued, because there's a lot of influencers. That's a big thing for dietitians, that influencers are nutrition experts when we've gone to school for 6-7 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So under earning could be a problem. That's a problem. And it's really, like we say, it's your problem, like it's my problem, but it's really their problem, right? It's like, this is the problem. Is this the problem they would be willing to admit? And you go, yeah. If you're an under-earning dietitian, if you're not just under-earning, but you're not getting the recognition and the respect you deserve, and then you go, that's your person. Yeah, that's super clear. That's super clear and super aligned. And if you can help them scale their earning potential, and you go, these two are how you would do it, but not what you would market, right? So this is what you teach them, but then you market the destination, which is like, the high earning home dietitian or whatever. Like, yeah. By the way, you guys want to? I'll share with you. This is one of our strategies for like the actual title. Is so simple. So whenever we're talking about titles or headlines or book titles, doesn't matter, podcast title, is ridiculously simple. So we call it the I want blank test. And all you have to do is ask yourself, how would your avatar complete that sentence? And however they would complete that sentence needs to be your title. Like the title of your program, the title of your thing. So just ask, how would my avatar answer, I want blank, right? And then take the pretty much the verbatim words and then call that the course name or the business name or the coaching program name. Yeah.
But what if it's a boring word? Like, what if it's freedom? Is that overused? Or like, my problem is, in a nutshell, doctors burning out. But like, burnout is so done.
Okay.
now.
Okay. I'm so glad you bring this up. Okay. So when we talk about uniqueness, so here's something, hot take. I think that the young people call it hot take, or the social media people call it hot take.
I don't think the young people.
Maybe it's not young
millennials,
people.
yeah.
Okay. I think differentiation is radically overrated. Here's what differentiation is, in my eyes. I look at what the whole world is doing, and then I try to do something different from that. When I do that, I compare myself to this person, or I assess, ooh, that word is used a lot, or da-da-da-da-da-da. Uniqueness is different. Uniqueness is I come from the inside, and I just come full force with who I am and what I believe, and I don't give a crap what the world is doing. So if that's what you are on fire about, and that's what your person is struggling with, I literally could not give a crap less what my competitors are doing. All I care about is serving the person I once was, and in the way that I know how to do it, and I go all in on that. And, as long as I'm not committing blatant copyright infringement or plagiarism, you just go. And if that's what they want, and that's what they want, use the word. I don't care about everyone else. I care about my avatar. Like, everything is like all about the who. I'm just serving the person, right? No fear when the mission to serve is clear. I don't care if my friends judge me, my colleagues, my family. I don't care if people go like, oh, that's overdone, overused. Maybe for you, but not for my avatar. This is what they're desperate for. So that would be, anyways, that's not necessarily specific to you, but a general thing that I go, it's another thing when people think branding, they're always like, differentiate. So in order to differentiate myself, I have to look at what other people are doing. You don't have to look at what anyone's doing. Look at how did you solve the problem yourself? How do you help people? And just double down on that and go, this is it.
Can I ask your perspective? So Lauren says freedom, it's so done. And then I immediately go into who her avatar is, which is, let's just say a chiropractor. Like she's the chiropractor to chiropractors. And so I'm a chiropractor and I'm scrolling and then I see her say, like, are you a chiropractor and you want freedom? I feel like about 50% toward it. Like, yes, who doesn't? But what about like, can we get so specific? Like, what's your perspective?
Yeah,
on
let's just
getting
get
super
juicier.
let's
just make it juicier.
I'm a chiropractor and I want to work 2 hours in a 7-figure clinic.
So
there you go.
it's a completely different thing though. So they're either making money, but they have no time, or they have no money. Yeah. So so it comes to freedom of like the
Right.
time and the financial freedom.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because it's chiropractors, vets, physical therapists, and dentists. So like basically non-hospital doctors, clinic owners.
Hold on, pause.
Yep.
We say it's for this, this, and this, but we're literally speaking to one of the world's
Right.
best.
Yep.
And so when you say it's for vets and chiropractors and this and one more, what's your
I'll give you
straight
the
up?
TAM on chiropractors, and you might recommend I
mean,
expand.
it's again, when you break through the wall, you break through on something small, and then you can sort of start to expand. So if you've gotten
broken
some
through
traction,
chiropractors.
it's kind of like, think of it as almost like you're a big fish in a small pond.
Yep.
You want to be a big fish in a small pond, and then you go to a little bigger pond, and then you go to a little bigger pond, and then you go to a little bigger pond, right? So it's all dependent on where you're at in your life cycle and stuff. If it was day one, I would be like, you'll get much further, much faster by choosing one of those.
And that's how I started.
Right?
So, yeah.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, yeah.
Chiropractors. So anyways, as if you're kind of like, okay, I kind of like got the world of chiropractors, and now I'm going to like the tangential, like I'm sort of, and it's not just, the truth is it's not just one wall, it's a series of walls, and they're just bigger and bigger. So that's a really good question. So I definitely noticed when she said that, because my mind, the moment you say 2 business models, multiple revenue streams, I own all these companies, I serve these 4 avatars, I solve these 5 problems, anytime I hear any of that language, immediately my mind's like, red flag, like, let's go back. So, but I kind of hear you, it feels like you're kind of like, okay there.
Yeah.
But this is, all that matters is this. Like, how would your avatar, what would be their irresistible answer to this question?
This wasn't what they expected when they signed up to go into healthcare.
Sure, and what do they want now?
Their ego stroked. Like,
What would they say they want?
balance. Again, it's just such a boring word.
Okay, it's not about, don't judge the word. Like, it's all that matters is that they would see it and they would go, hell yeah, that's what I want. Right?
It's valued.
They would be like, what? And by the way, if you don't know, ask them. Right? You serve and you survey them.
Tell Rory the word.
Valued.
I'm gonna be valued.
Yep. Oh, he didn't give him goosies, guys.
Well,
Okay.
look at this is also
That word,
there's
okay.
a difference. This is a one word.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not the title test. Those are two different things. So your title is not one word. This is internal alignment and strategic clarity about how do we actually solve this problem for chiropractors or whatever practitioners or providers. Okay. So So by the way, so for Brand Builders Group, the problem we solve is obscurity. Our uniqueness is service. But notice the book title is not called service. The book title is called what? Wealthy and well-known. Right? And so what we could have called it rich and famous, but we know mission-driven messengers are actually turned off by rich and famous. That feels it's too far. It's like we were trying to go to New York and we went to Bermuda and they don't like that. So we had to dial it back a little bit, right? But we don't market our uniqueness. The uniqueness is the truth about how to, right? The truth about how to build a huge personal brand is to be centered on service and to serve your avatar and say, I don't care about anything else. But that's not what we market, because nobody wakes up and is like, oh, I want to serve Like that's not, it's like we're marketing the other things. So this is marketing. So this is what you call it to attract them. This, and then also this, right?
He literally dropped the mic.
It'll make you. So the problem and the payoff is what matters in your marketing. Your one word uniqueness matters in your internal alignment and like strategic clarity and direction. But I don't see anything. The only thing I have an issue with is making your decision based on it's overused or what other people think or that's unoriginal. Only if your avatar would say that. If your avatar would be like, meh, then I go, that ain't it. But if your avatar is like, what are they desperate for? Whatever they're desperate for is like, call it that, right? I want unforgettable experiences. Like, I want to be remembered. Then like, call it that, right? Like something around that. Yeah.
Okay, so I am shifting from B2C to B2B with the same program.
From B to C.
So right now,
Okay.
I teach SLPs and OTs, speech pathologists and occupational therapists, how to become pediatric feeding therapists. Like that is our core program. And so we've got this 12-week course, right? Took us 0 to 7 figures in our first year, yada, yada, whatever.
Cool.
So we've launched it now, 18 times. And we're planning to do 3 more launches this year of it. And then I'd like to evergreen it and my team will handle all of that. So my full focus this year, aside from like maybe 3 weeks where I have to show up on camera to launch that thing, is going B2B with hospitals. And we are licensing this into like a zip file where they can drop this continuing ed course into their hospital system. Because my goal when I started this was to get kids off of pediatric feeding wait lists. And I realized like going B2C, we've moved the needle a little bit, but we really haven't moved the needle in the way that we need to. And the way to do that is to get into the systems where they're actually, not just the therapists, but the nurses and anybody who has their hands on that case. So we've already made the pivot. We've started talking to some hospitals. They're very interested. But I guess my question is like, it's this whole marketing shift, right? And we have a salesperson. I've hired somebody to help us with all of this. But I'm like, I don't know what my word is. I'm talking to executives. Like, this is not the fear-based clinician who wants this beautiful transformation. Yes, they still are there. And yes, they want the course. And yes, they want their employer to pay for it. So they're my champions getting me in the door. But I'm like, I don't know.
You're serving 2 different who's now.
Yes, but we're automating the B to C to the point where I almost don't care if that fizzles out and goes away because my focus is here now. And I'm just using 2026 as a way to kind of like wrap it up with a pretty bow.
Yeah.
By 2027, we're all in on B to C.
Okay,
Or
well,
B2B.
the clear answer is if you're serving 2 who's, that means you need 2 sets of assets. Basically 2 of everything, right? You need 2 teams, you need 2 web pages, you need 2 social profiles, you need 2 marketing collaterals, you need 2 different accounting systems, you need two different, and that therein lies the exhaustion of the whole thing. So let me show y'all something else. Okay, so this is something called the team model matrix. So this comes from our 8-figure entrepreneur curriculum. So that's in the phase 4. Those of you that I was showing you the 4 phases, okay? So every business, doesn't matter if you are 1 person or you have 1 million employees, every business has the same 8 functions. You got marketing, you got sales, you got delivery of whatever the thing is you're selling, you have customer service for questions that come from the people who are trying to do your thing. Then you have operations and IT, which builds the systems that all of these people run on. Then you have HR, which manages the people who do all of these things. Okay, then you have admin, which is legal and strategy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got like contracts and legal and strategy for all these things. And then you have finance, which counts the money of all of these things. So every business has these things, but it's not just every business. It's every single revenue stream. So revenue stream 1 if you're going to sell a product, someone's got to create the marketing assets for that. Someone has to get on the phone and sell that or build a sales page and a shopping cart to do that. Someone has to make sure that product gets delivered and optimized. Someone has to deal with those questions. Someone has to build the marketing automate or the workflow automations and the processes to ensure people are using it. Someone's got to deal with hiring and training the people to do all of those things. Someone has to write a contract for that thing and deal with the tax implications and copyrights and da-da-da-da-da. And then someone has to process the money, including payables, receivables, doing the monthly financials, tax strategy, blah, blah, blah for those things. So here's what small business owners do. If we just launched more revenue streams, we could double our revenue. We go, okay, let's launch a new revenue stream. And it's like, oh, we could do that. I have an idea. I have a vision to create this. And then we create a revenue stream for that thing. And then it's like multiple streams of income, baby. Let's keep going. So again, this is not wrong. I'm just telling you how it is. So now we got 3 revenue streams in our company. Now here's the exercise. You need to put one person's name in every one of these boxes. So one person has to go, I'm going to wake up every day and think about driving leads for this product. One person's going to go, I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to think about converting those leads for this product. Someone's going to go, I'm going to wake up every day and make sure our customers get the best dang experience possible. We're going to innovate and improve this product. One person, one person, one person. So I don't care who it is, but I'm telling you, there has to be a name in every one of those boxes. And if you don't have a staff member whose name goes on that box, guess whose name goes in that box? You do. So this is the challenge, okay, just in general. So that's, again, principle here. So coming back to your thing, you just got to be prepared that you're going to deal with that.
So I have that all handled.
For your current revenue stream.
For my current revenues, because we actually have more than one. We have like 6 in
Okay.
the current business.
And those are all, every one of those boxes is cranking, optimize.
The only thing we still live launch is one course, which is what I want to also completely evergreen.
Okay.
2027, so that my team is running all of it. I am completely out.
Okay.
So my attention is solely on this new.
And you got red flag checklists of like, if they violate these things, it'll catch itself and, process to clean it.
I'm sure we have a lot of.
Of course, you're never always there. But okay, you sound confident of like, we got that done.
That's like how I spent 2025 was like, how do we do that?
As long as you feel that way, then I go, great, now let's talk.
Yes.
Okay, so that's just for everybody.
Yes.
So then you go, great, this is an avatar, so it's no problem. You go, now I have a B2B revenue stream. So I need a new website, I need a new sales process in person, and you just got to build all of those same things.
We have all that built. We're already like in the sales.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, what's the
Rory,
question?
Yes, we're going to start with the question. So start with the question. But are you saying that for revenue to stream that she is putting in for a B2B, somebody new for her marketing?
No, that's just, it could be the same person as long as this doesn't fail. As long as this doesn't drop.
We hired an outside team. I hired this woman, April Beach, and she comes with we were working with her one-on-one. So we've got her marketing team, her sales team that built everything out for us.
Yeah.
It's already done. So now my team is taking it over. However, we are looking at capacity and going to be hiring for, people to take over as we build this out.
Yeah, that's the thing. And just go, when I launch something new, if I used to do this demonstration where I'd give you a balloon, right? And if you would come up to the front, I go, here's your balloon. So this is a revenue stream, and you're gonna keep a balloon. And I go, great, you have 6 revenue streams. So I go, okay, here's 6 balloons, okay? Yeah. And you gotta keep up 6 balloons. And you go, okay, now we're gonna have a 7th. And I go, here's your 7th balloon. Yeah. As long as you have a team of people, and if you have 7 people up here and they're able to keep up this balloon, no problem. Expand. That's called scale, baby. You're expanding and you're growing. You do it. But if you start to feel like, oh, well, balloons are hitting the floor, it's like, we got to be prepared to be like, okay, this one's got to go bye-bye. This one's going to bye-bye. And I'm saying shutting down entire revenue streams.
Yeah. And I would be okay with doing that if it came to that point.
Yeah. So I hear you feeling you're confident. So then what's your question?
So my question is, in moving into this B2B, like my word, like I'm no longer speaking to the same avatar.
Yeah.
The course is for the same avatar.
Yep.
But I'm not speaking to them. So then how does
Yeah,
that?
because your financial buyer is different. So, your avatar is the financial buyer.
Right.
So you go, what do they want? They want
wanna
something
make money.
different. They want to make
They
money.
only care about money and making sure that these cases don't return to the hospital and,
Great.
Yeah.
All of your marketing needs to be around making money. And what's the issue that they currently have with the absence of your solution is currently causing them what pain right now?
It's costing them a lot of money because Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance does not reimburse when these children return back to the hospital, and a lot of them have feeding issues.
Yeah, and I would say that feels very right. In general, B2B is like, show me the money and the ROI. B2C is often more about like, I want to change the life, I want to make a difference in the community. So that's it. So you're on it. So you just got to go do what you know how to do, but you are creating a brand new thing, a brand new avatar, different language, different offer structure, different sales process, different agreements, and that's B2B.
Right.
And
just like the single word, like when you go back to that single word, I'm like, I can't pinpoint what that is because that's not me. Like I created the course for the person that I was.
right, you serve the person you once were, yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm like, I'm not a financial head of.
Yeah, well, you need to go find one and you need to ask them. You need to talk to them. But I would tell you, another warning would be, if you're not clear on it, you're going to have a hard time attracting their attention and convincing them of it.
Right.
So until you're clear on that, they don't have a reason to pay attention. And so you've got an idea for something, but you don't have a signal that they're going to listen to. So you got to figure that out. Otherwise, you're going to spin wheels. Now, when you're doing something new, part of what you do is you got to try stuff. Like that's why Sheehan's Wall starts wide in the beginning and then it gets narrow. Because in the beginning it's new. It's like you got to try stuff. You got to throw stuff at the wall and figure it out. Like in the very beginning, we're just scrappy and fighting, and then we get more and more strategic, and then we break through the wall, and then we can expand again. So you got to figure that out.
Okay, so we're gonna go into a little bit of a breakout, but I feel very strongly called to tell you that you don't know the word and you won't be able to find the word in this current state. And at minimum, I would love for you, who is the decision maker who would invest in licensing the program at a hospital?
It depends on the hospital because I've now had 3 conversations. It was different every single one.
Great. So now what I want you to do is I want you to figure it out for 50 hospital.
Okay.
You have a list of 50 hospitals around the United States, and you're going to say, who is that decision maker?
This has been what's tricky.
Of the 50, no, it's not tricky.
Until
It's
you
just
get on the phone with them, though, nobody tells you who that.
great. So your
decision
whole
maker is.
job.
But that's what I'm doing.
Great.
Yes.
50 hospitals.
All right.
They will likely be 3 or 4 different people. If they're equally distributed with 3 or 4 other people, then you have to interview another 50 hospitals. And then all of a sudden, the more data, the clearer who it is that you need to speak to. And then once it becomes X person at a hospital, it's not every hospital, but guess what? You're not going to boil the ocean right now. You're going to start with 1 cup at a time. So you're going to speak to this particular person. And then once you do that, I want you speaking to 30 of those titles at hospitals around. These are 20 to 30-minute meetings. They likely won't take them. You're going to pay them. I'm doing research. All I wrote on my paper back there was data, research, stat. Data, research. He said that, and I was like, oh my God. That's how I'm going to figure out my messaging. But you're not going to get the word until it's 100 hospitals, 30 people, 30 minutes, pay them for their time. And that's why he's saying, if this is not 100% turnkey, the 100 hospitals won't take you 100 days. It might take you 1,000. So that's why he's just like, we got to make sure that this thing is this thing. And so I always say that starting another revenue stream is like building a house. It will take twice as long and cost twice as much. So if we don't have twice as much over here, we're going to be so panicked that the ball drops. We take all of our attention off this thing. We go back and we address this problem for 3 or 4 weeks, and we got to go back to call Hospital 47, but we got out of our flow. So it's like, where does Helly get just the flow to say, team, that's you. That's no longer me. The kindest thing you could do for your team is to make sure that every system is so buttoned up. And you say, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, great. We're going to button it up twice. And then you're going to say, I am not here. I am here. And I only say this because this is the thing I did. Hundreds and hundreds of hundreds. I was paying people to get on calls with them. It's $25. It might cost you $250. And guess what? Cost of doing business, baby. You're going to go big and it's going to be good, but it's going to take twice as long and cost twice as much. What an honor to have spent the afternoon with Rory in this incredible room. I especially loved the questions that were asked because they added a lot more context. It makes it feel richer, and and hey, let's be real, it allowed us to see how brilliant his answers were. And so I'm having a question for you. Do you want to chat more about building your brand? You can connect with Rory and his team at freebrandcall.com/Jasmine Star to sign up for a free call. I'm going to add that link to the show notes. And like always, thank you for watching and listening to the Jasmine Star Show.